Hi there, this is Mary from Voip Hubs. Welcome back to part 4 of our FusionPBX training series. This will be the last aspect of our training series, and we'll be focusing on voicemail to email, fax servers, call forwarding, and follow me. Before we get started, a little bit about us. Voip Hubs is a VoIP service provider, and we have a multitude of different plans ranging from $16 every month to $50 every month. In addition, we have our cloud-based hosted solution, which is $15 per month per extension. If you would like any additional information, please don't hesitate to visit www.voiphubs.com, or you may click on the link in the description box below. Alright, so let's begin with our first topic, which is voicemail to email. Now, per my last video, I stated that you cannot simply go on the extensions tab, scroll down, and then type in an email address in the voicemail mail to aspect and expect it to work. You would also need to implement SMTP information. Now, where do you get this SMTP information? There are 3 aspects to this video. The first aspect is implementing the email address within the extensions tab. The second aspect is getting the SMTP information from your Gmail account or whichever platform that you're using. And the third aspect is implementing the settings, the SMTP settings on your FusionPBX server to have things up and running, to be able to send the voicemail to the appropriate email addresses. Now, we've dealt with the first aspect. Basically, you go into your extensions tab by going on Accounts, Extensions, pick the extension in question, scroll down, and the voicemail mail to, just type in the email address that will be receiving the voicemails. The second aspect is, where do you get this SMTP information from? So for this example, let's say we're using a Gmail account. I will be putting the links in the description box below for all of this, so you may reference to it if you get a little bit lost in kind of trying to figure out on how to go about this. But basically, you just, for Gmail, generally, the SMTP server information is almost duplicate for certain aspects, like the smtp.gmail.com, which is the SMTP from aspect, is generally the same. And the ports are generally the same for the TLS as well, which is 587. But the stuff that is different will be, the email, your email address, your Gmail password, stuff along those lines. So this can be found quite easily by just following this specific website that I will be linking in the description box below, and getting just the important aspects of the SMTP settings. Now, what aspects are needed for your SMTP to be up and running? To be able to find this out, maneuver back to your FusionPBX server, click on Advanced, and then click on Default Settings. Once you've reached this specific interface, in the text box, just type in SMTP lowercase. If you do it uppercase, you will not be receiving the information that you need. Actually, you'll be receiving nothing. So now that you've typed this in, if you look at the email category, these subcategories are what we need to be able to get this up and running. Now, mind you, some of this is actually quite new. The SMTP _crypto _ method and the SMTP validate certificate are fairly new. So I will not be using these settings. Generally, the ones that I will be using are the essential ones, and these ones are fairly new, so I don't want to use something that I'm not completely 100% knowledgeable about. So, to be able to get this information to be inputted into your specified multi-tenant domain, just click on the text, click on the checkbox, sorry about that, click on the checkbox, and then for me, I'm just going to simply uncheck the SMTP crypto method and the SMTP validate certificate method. Everything else is what we need. So after you've checked these, click on copy, click on the drop down menu, choose the multi-tenant domain, and then click on paste. Click on OK, and now this subcategories are implemented on your multi-tenant domain. To be able to get to that, click on Advanced, click on Domains, click on the domain in question, click on Settings, and now you will see this information has been inputted here. Now, how do we start this off? Let's go one by one. For the first two, the SMTP authentication and the method, all you simply need to make sure is these two are enabled. The value has already been inputted for you. The SMTP from is your email address. Now, I'm going to try to explain this the best way possible, but there are two aspects to SMTP. The first aspect is in the extensions tab, which is, make sure to implement the email address in which you want the voicemail to go to. And now this will be, I'm sure it will be different email addresses for different extensions. Maybe not, but generally for, bigger companies, each individual person has their own email address that they would like to receive their voicemails to. The second aspect is the email address that you will be using to send the voicemails. And this is the email address that will be implemented in your SMTP information. So what happens is one email address simply sends the voicemails to the specified emails, and the other email address that's implemented in your extensions will receive those voicemails. The SMTP from is basically the email address that you will be using to forward the voicemails to the specified email addresses inputted in the extensions tab. So for this example, let's just type in anything. Let's just do abc@hotmail.com. This will be the email address that we will be using to send the voicemails. The SMTP from name simply is when you receive the email, what would you like the email's title to state, or the name of the services basically that you're receiving this voicemail from. So just to kind of keep it simple, I would just keep it as Voip Hub's voicemail. So I know that if I receive an email from Voip Hub's voicemail, that it's basically coming from one of my extensions, or the only extension that I have in which I directed my voicemails to be sent through email. So let's click save on that one. The SMTP host is basically the host of your SMTP server in a sense, and you can get this information again by following this specific aspect. If you're using Gmail, most often than other, your SMTP host would be smtp.gmail.com. But again, you have to make sure by looking into the settings of your email address. So let's copy this, let's paste it here. The next aspect is the SMTP host name, which is simply will be a duplicate of the SMTP host. Just make sure to put your host or host name in this aspect as well. SMTP password. This is the password of the abc@hotmail.com email address that we will use to forward the voicemails. So that is, you may put that on here. I'll just simply choose ABC. Again, this is not a real email address. The SMTP port. This can be found in your SMTP information within your email, and generally for Gmail accounts is 587. But again, please look into that because yours may be different. So let's simply put 587. SMTP secure TLS. That's if your email server uses TLS. For Gmail, it does as well, and you can see that for Gmail through this aspect right here. It says port for TLS, which just simply means they use TLS. And then the last aspect is SMTP username, and this is basically just your email that you're using to send or forward the voicemail to. Just basically put it on again, and we've put it up here for the SMTP from, and we will just duplicate it in the SMTP username. So it will be abc@hotmail.com. Now, once this information has been implemented, please make sure that everything is enabled. This is very, very important. By default, some of them are disabled. I believe the port, SMTP port is disabled, and maybe SMTP from is disabled as well. I don't quite remember, but I've manually enabled all of these for this example, so please do the same. Now we have the SMTP information up and running. We have the email address within the extension up and running, and one more important thing, and this is something that you may need to do, you may not need to do. We've noticed that more often than other that we did need to do this aspect, which is enable the less secure apps on your Gmail account or your Hotmail account or whatever account that you're using. I will put this link in the description box below so you may follow it as well, but it's as simple as going on your Gmail account, going to your security settings, scrolling down a little bit, and making sure to enable the less secure app access. We've noticed that if you don't do that, sometimes the voicemail to email just simply fails. Now, one very essential aspect, and FusionPBX does a great part, or has a great part in making sure that things go smoothly, is testing. Testing is extremely essential, and FusionPBX gives you the capability of testing to see, are the voicemail to email working? If they're not, why are they not working? So to be able to do that, please go on status, go on email logs, and you'll be reaching this specific interface. Click on test. Please put in an email address. It doesn't have to be the email address that you've inputted in your SMTP information or anything like that. This can be any email address that you have access to. So I will use abc@hotmail.com. Again, this is not going to work because it's not real. Click send, and you'll be met with this dialog box. It gives you the settings. This aspect would have all the information that you've inputted within it, but again, nothing that we did was real. It wasn't a real email address. It wasn't a real password. It was nothing. So this will have the information that you've inputted. The two most important aspects, in my opinion, the first and most essential aspect is the connection. This right here will indicate to you if there is an issue, what that issue may be, and it has a really wonderful feature where it actually gives you an error code that you may copy paste into Google and see what type of information that you get as to why your voicemail to email is failing. And then ultimately the result aspect just tells you, did the message fail or did it not fail? This aspect, the connection aspect, will not only tell you if it failed, but why it failed. So if you want to do some testing, just make sure to, again, go on status, and then go on email logs and test that way. And that would be it for the voicemail to email. Now, the second aspect of this video is the fax server. The fax server actually has SMTP implemented within it as well. So we will just move right onto it since it's kind of correlating in regards to the topics. So to get to the fax server, click on Applications and then click on Fax Server. If you were to create this fax server, what this means is you may send your outgoing faxes however way you choose to send them, whether it be through an ATA, whether it be through however process you would like to choose, but to receive the faxes, it will go to your email. To be able to do this, you must create a fax server. So, let's begin by creating a fax server. Click on the Add button, and we'll give it a name. I will just say simply Fax Server. I will give it an extension that hasn't been used before, which is extension 1000. Scroll down. You may ignore the destination number, the prefix aspect. Scroll down just to the email aspect. This is the email address that will be receiving the faxes through email, basically. So you may input that within here. Let's say I want to use abc@hotmail.com. And you may look into the other aspects of it. Again, I don't feel like these are necessary for this example, so I won't really be diving into them. And we click Save. Now you see that your fax server has been created. You may click on the logs to see the logs. Click on the sent aspect to see which ones has been sent. Click on the inbox aspect, and this will give you, not only will you be receiving the faxes through your email, but you'll also be having them inputted and implemented on your FusionPBX. And you may click on the inbox aspect to see, the faxes that have been received, if there's an attachment, the date has been received, so on and so forth. And of course, new you may create this to be able to send faxes through here, sent to the appropriate fax number. But I've noticed that the majority of our clients simply use the fax server to receive rather than send as well. So I will not be diving into this aspect. Now that we have the fax server up and running, created, we need to be able to implement the proper SMTP information. Again, the SMTP information you'll be using an email address that will forward those faxes. And this can be done again by doing the same thing that we did earlier, going on default settings, typing SMTP, implement it on your multi-tenant domain, going on domains, going on your domain itself, clicking settings, and this would be your SMTP information. Now let's say you have voicemail to email, but you also have fax to email. You can now have duplicate SMTP categories, or email, I guess you would say categories, because it doesn't necessarily state SMTP, but it's rather called email. You can now have two of them. You can only have one of them. So you may use the forwarding email to forward your voicemail as well as forward your faxes. So please keep that in mind. If you were to go again to default settings right now and implement and copy the email category and all the subcategories, implement it on this multi-tenant domain, what's going to happen is that this information will just simply be wiped out, and then you would have to put everything all over again. Because again, FusionPBX does not correspond very well with having duplicate SMTP informations, because it will not know where do I take the voicemail, where do I take the fax. So now that we have the fax server up and running and we have the SMTP information implemented on here, let's say we're using abc@hotmail.com to send voicemail and to send faxes. What we need to do is we need to make sure to update our inbound routing. So let's say, for instance, this is my fax my fax number. This is not my main number for my company. And mind you, this is actually just a test number that we use. That's why I'm not blurring it out. It's just there. Basically, it cannot be used. You cannot do anything with it. It's just for testing purposes. So let's say this is actually my fax number rather than my actual number itself. So to be able to kind of make sure that it goes to the fax server, not only do you need to make sure to implement it in the actions drop-down menu, so click on the drop-down menu, go and make sure it goes to 1000 fax server, but the fax detection needs to be implemented as well. So now the inbound routing is detecting that there's a fax server implemented, and we make sure to select the fax server. We make sure to put the appropriate action. Now we click save. So anything that reaches this number, automatically Fusion detects that it's a fax server, and the fax server is 1000, so it will reach the 1000 fax server that we just created. And that is basically it for voicemail to email as well as fax to email. The last two topics are quite similar to each other with slight bit of differences. So we will kind of be taking on these two topics together because they fall under the same type of interface. So we will be focusing on follow me and call forwarding. What is the difference between the two? Call forwarding is as simple as the title states. It is forwarding calls. So let's say you have an extension and you are not going to be within the office today, so you want to forward every call that reaches this extension to an external number like your cell phone number. To be able to do that, click on Applications and then click on Call Forward. Now, there are two aspects to enable call forwarding. The first one can be done through the GUI, which is by accessing your FusionPBX, doing exactly what I'm doing right now, choosing your extension, let's say 100, and then enabling call forwarding by putting in the destination number, no spaces before, no spaces after, no spaces in between, just put the number all in all together. So I'll be using a test number. This is it's a generic number I got from an application that I use. This number is, it's not necessarily essential, and it could be replaced within a click of a button. So this is why I'm putting this number up on YouTube, so just in case you're wondering, nothing to worry about. So let's say I want to forward all calls for extension 100 to go to 240-222-7545. Click Save, and now you're good to go. Now, all the calls will go straight into the external number in which you've implemented on here. Let's say, for instance, that you don't have access to this GUI, or not that you don't have access, but let's say the owner of extension 100 does not have access. So one way to do this is to basically put in the feature code on your physical phone. So the feature code for call forwarding on FusionPBX is *72#. So what I mean by that is you type in *72, then you put in your number, and then you click pound. So I will do that in one of my test phones here, and I will make sure that you guys are able to hear what's going on. So I'm going to put it on speaker right now, and we will continue. This is actually extension 100, so you will see the difference that it will make once I do that. So now you see that extension 100 currently has nothing enabled under call forwarding. I'm going to enable call forwarding by *72, then I put in the test number 7545#.
24022227545. Call forwarding has been set.
So this is indicative to the fact that call forwarding has been set. If I were to simply refresh this, as you can see, immediately Fusion understood the call forwarding was enabled, and now it's being forwarded to the specific number. For you to disable call forwarding, you may go on the GUI and simply just disable it from here, or you may disable it by using the feature code, which is *73. So, *73#.
Call forwarding has been canceled.
Now, if I were to refresh, call forwarding has been canceled, and Fusion automatically understood that. So that kind of handles the call forwarding aspect. Now, what is the difference between call forwarding and follow me? As you can see, follow me is one of the options here. If I were to click on extension 100, you see the follow me is down here. What does follow me mean? Follow me, as simple as I may put it, it just basically means the title. Follow me. So if I were to enable it, what I want to do is today, extension 100, I will be going into my other office. My other office has my extension as 200. So what I want, and mind you, this other office has to be implemented. You have to have an extension called 200. So maybe we can use one of the extensions that we already have, which is 101. And let's say 101 is downtown New York, and 100 is somewhere in New York, quite further than downtown. So these are two different locations that we have under the same multi-tenant domain, but they're able to correlate with each other, which is the beauty in one way or another of FusionPBX. Is you can have multiple locations, some within the same state, some within different countries, as long as they are probably configured within FusionPBX, they can correlate with each other, they can speak with each other, they can forward calls to each other, and so on and so forth. Let's say 101 is in downtown New York, and I'm going to be staying at that specific location for the next 2 weeks because there is an important meeting or launch or whatever it may be. So, mind you, you can go on applications, you can go on call forwarding, or you can simply go on applications and you can click on follow me. It will take you to the same exact interface. So let's say I am going to downtown New York, my extension down there is 101. I want any incoming call to go to extension 100 to follow me to extension 101, which is in downtown New York. And if I don't answer after 6 rings, which is the timeout, remember what I stated, per 5 is 1 ring. So let's say you want 3 rings, you put in 15. After 3 rings, if 101 does not answer, I want it to go to an external number. So 240-222-7545. Click Save. So now it's enabled. Now it's simply following you wherever you go. You're going to the downtown location, and we'll ring to extension 101. Let's say you're out and you're dealing with some business, then it will go to the external number, which will ring 6 times. Now let's actually do this. Let's see how we can implement this. Now unfortunately I'll probably be calling from the same number, but this would be a good way to kind of show you the call flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be calling the main number here, which is 437-290-1862, and then let's just simply go on the active calls, status, active calls. I'm going to be calling in. It will reach, oh, you know what? Before I do that, I forgot to do one thing, which is change the inbound routing from the fax server back to, let's say I wanted to go to my IVR. Okay, so now we're going to call, and you will see the call flow. So now I'm calling in.
Thank you for calling Voip. Please press 1 to reach the...
I've enabled the direct dial, so I'm going to simply dial extension 100.
Your call is being transferred.
So I have extension 101 implemented on my phone, and as you can see, extension 101 is currently ringing. I'm not sure if you can hear it as well. So it's going to ring for about 3 to 4 rings, and then it is going to the external number. Now the number that I'm calling for is the external number, so you're seeing a duplicate of it here. If I were to just simply decline, you're going to see this go away, and there you go. So that is exactly what you do. So as you can see, it followed your configurations. It went first straight to extension 101. It rang the amount of time that you implemented it to ring, and then it went to the external number, which it rang and could have rang more, but I actually declined it. So it's not too confusing. So that is the beauty of Follow Me. Now again, you don't need to put an extension number. That is not needed. You can simply put in an external number. You can put in multiple external numbers, and it will just simply follow the routing to make sure that the incoming call is led to the appropriate destination, so somebody can pick up and answer the call and help the client that's calling in. Alright, so I hope that I explained myself enough for you to be able to get into the system and be able to implement all of the things that we've learned. We've learned a lot of wonderful things in this training series. How to create, how to install the initial server, how to configure the server from extensions to IVR to outbound to ring groups to time condition to call centers. We have done the majority of things that people tend to focus on. We have done it within this training series. Now, if you have any other topic that you're having a bit of complication with, or you want a little bit of more understanding or a bit more knowledge in how to go about it and the best way to go about it, please let me know. And if I have enough free time, I'll be more than happy to kind of record a video and to show you exactly what you need to do to get things up and running. Alright, well this concludes our FusionPBX training series. There has been 4 parts to this, so if you would like any type of more information, or maybe you skipped right onto the 3rd or 4th part and you missed the first 2, please just click on our YouTube channel and you will see the videos there. It's called FusionPBX Installation Configuration, and it goes from part 1 to part 4. I really hope that these videos have helped you get an understanding of this wonderful platform, and kudos to FusionPBX for making such a wonderful platform for, that is extremely user-friendly and does what it needs to do extremely well. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. This is Mary of Voip. I really truly appreciate it, and I hope that it helped you take care of your objectives. Hope you have a wonderful day, and take care.